you also have been helping Vice President Pence in terms of his preparations. What are we going to hear tonight from Vice President Mike Pence as he goes up against Senator Harris?
Well, I think the vice president is just going to be himself. He's an amazing guy who really cares very deeply about people. And he's going to try to do what the media hasn't done to Kamala Harris, which is pin her down on some of these issues that she keeps avoiding. She hasn't really faced the media or scrutiny or talks since she's been nominated to be the vice president on the ticket. So I think tonight that we really want to see her answer some questions. As you know, she's the most liberal senator, and she's on a ticket with someone who's trying to not be the most liberal senator. And so they've got some questions to ask, and the media have some questions to ask of them. The American people want to know questions about whether or not she still feels like ICE officials are akin to the KKK. This is what she said. She's been for open borders. I can tell you she is the absolute queen of the cancel culture. I'm from California. She's been our senator. She refuses to meet with Republicans. She refuses to meet with constituents who are Republicans nominated by Trump. She's voted against gay Republicans who are nominated by Trump in droves. And so I just feel like she needs to answer some of these questions that the media just aren't asking of her, and she's trying to avoid.
This is the first debate since the president has been diagnosed with COVID-19, the first lady, other staffers at the White House. Of course, the vice president was the driving person leading the coronavirus task force. You know that Senator Harris is going to attack that record. How does the vice president defend himself from those attacks, especially when so many staffers have contracted COVID?
I'm not sure that you can blame Donald Trump or the White House or Republicans for COVID. I mean, what you have to be able to understand is that we have 17 intelligence agencies in the United States, all very different, all very complex. It is incredibly difficult for 17 of them to come together and agree on any one thing, and they did. 17 U.S. intelligence agencies came together and agreed that the virus, COVID-19, started in Wuhan, China, and that it really became a problem for the world because communist China has secret ways. This is the assessment of the intelligence community. I ask you, why is it that Kamala Harris and Joe Biden never blame China? Never blame China for this. This is a virus. It's shameful that they somehow would turn this into a political issue when we know around the world, governments around the world are looking at bringing home their supply chain from China because they are feeling we can't ever be in this position again.
I want to ask you about that in a second. I want to ask you one follow-up question, specifically as it relates to management of the virus at the White House and in Washington, D.C., because many in Washington, regardless of party, are concerned that this virus has penetrated inside of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. How does this administration guarantee that they can protect those staffers as well as lawmakers even from the virus spreading?
Well, look, this is a virus. I mean, for anyone to think that politicians can somehow stop its spread is a silly Washington idea. Look, we just saw President Trump tonight come out and say, I got COVID, I took this drug. This drug was amazing that helped me, and I'm now going to make it available to all the Americans who have COVID, and I'm going to do this for free. And what does Joe Biden do? He attacks, kind of the idea that Trump said that this was a gift to learn this lesson. This is the typical Washington way. I mean, Joe Biden talks about, co-signing bills in Washington, and that's his proof that he did things. The American people look at somebody like President Trump. He's a doer. He's an outsider, and he takes action. And he's saying, look, I took this drug. It worked. Let's make it available to everybody. That's action. It's not a piece of legislation that he co-sponsored that he can talk about.
Specifically on the issue of China, the biggest contrast between Vice President Pence and Senator Harris on China, on how they've dealt with China.
Look, I think that the reality is that the Chinese have made it perfectly clear that they want Biden-Harris to be elected. This is a team that has complimented China over and over. They engage with China, and they think that having China in the WTO is an amazing thing. We have tried to pressure China for the first time. Around the world, people were very surprised that the United States took on China. This was even before COVID. What we have to be able to do in a bipartisan way is come together to recognize that when we tried to engage with China 20 years ago, we brought them into the WTO. It didn't work. The idea of engagement with China was we thought that they would move along the line of greater acceptance of the rule of law, more capitalism. The engagement idea is a great idea. Donald Trump has done it with the North Koreans. He said he would do it with the current regime in Iran. We get the idea of engagement, but there also comes a time when Washington politicians have to be able to say that engagement didn't work. One of the reasons why I think Joe Biden doesn't want to do that is because his own family members have gotten rich off their involvement with China, business deals in China. These are just the facts. This is not Washington speak. This is the way that politicians like to work, and their family members in Washington, D.C. get jobs and contracts and money regardless of whether or not they're qualified for it.